In this industry, with natural disasters, with fires, floods, hurricanes, whatever it is, those partnerships are important because if it's not you today, it could be you tomorrow.
The statement's true and accurate, and unfortunate.
True, accurate, and unfortunate.
Yeah,
that's a quote.
That's a quote right there. What if regulators push for open access conditions for grant funding?
Wow. And what if I were 40 pounds lighter and had well-developed upper body muscles and less gray hair? Yeah, that would be a great world, wouldn't it?
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey.
We're very thrilled to have Curtis Dean join us from...
Honored, even.
Honored for sure.
Oh, come on now.
From the Community
Keep it coming.
Broadband Action Network. I got it right this time.
You did.
Yay, team.
CBAN, that's what we call it.
Working together.
Because we like acronyms in telecommunications, as you well know.
Oh my God. You know, when I first started in the industry, I kept a spiral notebook with all of the acronyms because I remember I was typing something on a Zoom session and they were like, Aaron. And I was like, ERIN.
Uh-huh.
No, that's not it.
Never mattered.
No.
Not it at all.
I've got a book. It's about this thick. It's called, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the Bible for all things telecommunications. And it is literally 500 pages of acronyms and definitions. Yep.
And we try so hard, but CBAN. That's the word for the day, or the acronym for the day.
Well, I appreciate having a whole day for it.
Excellent. It's CBAN Day. I like it. So what we're going to talk about today is how local partnerships are making a difference. And I think that's a perfect opportunity for us to share some ideas here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Curtis,
yeah.
I'm going to start with you.
Well, let me, if you don't mind, just kind of give everybody a little 30,000 level view of what CBAN is.
Absolutely.
CBAN stands for Community Broadband Action Network. We are a nonprofit membership organization. We have 230 plus members in 37 states, Canada, Great Britain, and India. And our members are communities that are looking to solve broadband problems. It could be access, it could be adoption, it could be whatever. So thus one class of our members are communities. Our other members are providers, and they are they're providers that care about the communities they serve. Sometimes they're publicly owned or community owned. Sometimes they're not. They're cooperatives. They're mutual companies. They're privately owned companies. But the difference, the key thing is they have to have strong roots in their community. Those are the people we want to help. We have advocate members. So like the American Association for Public Broadband is an advocate member. Broadband Communities is an advocate member.
Okay. That makes sense.
Fiber Broadband Association. It's other organizations that are out there doing good work to advocate for better broadband for more Americans. And then we have associate members. And associate members are companies that sell products, services, solutions, expertise that can help solve these problems that we're trying to link in. So our job is to help coordinate a conversation between the different members so that they can help each other solve problems, because partnerships are where solutions get resolved. That's where things happen. So yeah. So in talking about local partnerships, that's all we do, is try to create partnerships between our members so they can get good work done.
Well, Georgette's personal motto, at least as long as I've known her, has been connecting the dots. And it sounds like you rival in that department.
Yeah. You know, we all had the little Connect the Dots books when we were kids, and I was horrible at it. So I don't know where I learned to do it. I think it's because, you know, dots on a piece of paper are very abstract, whereas dots in an event like this or with our membership are people. And I can connect with people, and connecting people and the communities they serve and the organizations they serve. That's what we do. I was at Fiber Broadband Association a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to people and I was making introductions, and one of the members that I was doing an introduction to another member said, well, you're kind of like the matchmaker. And I'm like, yeah, that's really what we do as an organization. I do as the executive director is to help people connect so they can work together to solve problems. Sometimes we help them solve the problem. Sometimes all we have to do is get them talking to each other, and then they can solve the problem.
It's,
So that's
it's the Rolodex in your mind.
it's the Rolodex in your mind. Yeah.
Or as my son thinks, that is a row of ducks.
A row of ducks.
He's like,
yes.
why do
yeah.
you keep talking about this row of ducks?
Yeah.
No. It's all the people that are in my brain.
Although you got to get your ducks in a row if you're going to get people lined up for connecting for positive change. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Rick, what are some opportunities that you see are necessary for connecting communities, for connecting partnerships?
I think that when you get into this space, we always talk about how a lot of these ISPs kind of start accidentally, right?
Yeah, very much so.
They have a need, they just want to bring it, to their own. It's a selfish need, or it's an altruistic need, or somewhere in between. But I think what's a natural place to start is wanting to be a bit territorialistic about the way that you do it. You've got your borders, and this is my space, and someone starts encroaching on your borders, and you think, hey buddy, this is my space, go away.
Mine.
Yeah.
And I think most successful providers will have that moment in time where they kind of, that switch flips in their head and they realize, we can do more together, and I can't solve all of the world's problems.
Right.
Or I don't have an expertise that someone else might. And I think that as you are kind of working your way through your challenges, eventually you figure out, I can do this better with the help of others. But I think it's an unnatural inclination to let essentially your competitor in on some of these intimate opportunities.
Yeah, it is. Or it may not be a competitor, somebody who's going to take business away from you. It could be a competitor intellectually. And I got an example of that. There is a community-owned broadband network, which shall remain nameless, whose primary leader has been someone that I've been trying to engage with for years, and others in the broadband industry have been trying to engage with this person to partner with them to help solve problems. Right? This person has basically taken the tack that, no, I know everything. I can get everything done. I don't need any help. Yeah. I just recently learned that organization is getting overbuilt by a provider. And that provider was invited by the community that this organization serves, because the community felt that because this person was not friendly to the needs of the community, the needs weren't getting met, so they went and found a provider that can meet those needs.
Wow.
That's a perfect example of how not to do it. And that's the perfect kind of that shattering that glass ceiling that I've been working on for a long time. Most people that know me know I'm in Iowa. I've been working in broadband in Iowa for over 20 years. One of the things that I've been constantly trying to do is break down barriers between Iowa has a very robust municipally owned broadband network. We have 29 cities with municipal broadband in Iowa. Trying to break down the barriers between them and all the other independently owned cooperative type organizations. We have tons of those in Iowa, 120 or something. It's crazy. And when I first started working in broadband at a municipality 20 years ago or more, there was that, we don't trust you, you don't trust us, you're competing with us. They were worried that cities would start overbuilding them. And cities were worried that they were going to overbuild them.
Right.
And nobody wants an overbuilder, right? And over the years, I basically, the case I've made to everybody is, listen, if you're doing a great job, there is no reason anyone would overbuild you. So do a great job. And guess what? These guys want to do a great job too. Why don't you get together and do great jobs for each other? So I was very active in some of the partnerships we formed back in my days at Spencer Municipal Utilities when I was employed there, with other independent telcos, ITCs, and ILECs in the region, where we had resources that they needed. And rather than saying to them, go out and spend that money on your own, we said, no, we've got a resource you need. Let's partner and make that happen. They had resources we needed. So we partnered with them on.
It's that better together mentality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's people that need our help. And if we can solve these problems faster, we move to the next level of problem solving, and we help those end users faster.
Absolutely.
I talk a lot about bigger, stronger, faster, and the stronger component is that partnership to me. You don't build a ladder by only having the side pieces, right?
Right,
You
right.
have to have those
Those
steps
rungs are needed.
that tie it all together. And I do think in this industry, with natural disasters, with fires, floods, hurricanes, whatever it is. Yeah, we're here in Houston, Texas, right? Those partnerships are important because if it's not you today, it could be you tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And if you're living in a silo, it's going to be very difficult.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's that joint action, that emergency response, shared resources is vital, especially when most of the providers that are members of CBAN are small.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're small, you can't afford to have a bunch of extra gear sitting around just in case something bad happens.
What's the phrase? One is none.
One is none.
One
yeah.
is none.
Yeah, yeah.
2 is 1 and 1 is none.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And so that's where that mutual aid comes in, and it's proven vital. Not in places where there's floods and fires and hurricanes and tornadoes, but elsewhere, even if it's a major cyber attack. That's happened where a cyber attack happens and others help that provider with the resources they need to recover from that attack. So there's just...
And it's not just the provider. It's how they're marketing that information to their customers.
Absolutely. The
it's
communication.
How is the local community responding? Are you talking to the local news? Is this up on your Facebook?
Yep.
Is it gossip or is it actual information? Because information is power. Knowledge is power, and people want to know what's going on.
Right.
They do.
And you can also control the conversation if you're forthright with these things and you're open with them rather than leaving things to be speculated on. I think that's a really important tactic to take.
Yeah, my first career in broadband was as a marketing and community relations manager, and
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and when I was hired, I told my bosses, the powers that be, who was an electric utility, so they were getting into telecommunications, and so they were going to be competing with another company for the first time, and I just said, we have to be absolutely transparent about everything we do. And when we screw up, we have to admit it.
You have to own
And when
it.
we do well, we don't have to brag about it, but we just need to make sure people understand what we did well, right? So they appreciate what we did. And there's a way to do that with it sounding like being braggadocious or anything. So, and that was a hard thing to overcome at first from an old utility mindset, right? That, we don't need to tell everybody everything we do. And I'm like, no, you really do.
Yep.
You really do. And if it's bad news, there are ways to give people bad news that don't hide that it's bad, but provide them with the context and provide them with the solution. This happened. It's bad. Here's what we're doing to fix it. We'll make it better.
Right. That's how credibility is built.
Yeah.
Transparency on the best of times and during the worst of times.
I was one of our CBAN members a number of years ago had a major equipment failure with their voice switching gear.
Okay.
And I was CBAN. This was before CBAN. They're CBAN members now, but I was working for the Iowa Association of Municipal Utilities, and I got a call one day saying, "Hey, did you hear that XYZ's phone has been down for 24 hours?" I'm like, "No, what the heck's going on?" "I don't know. I just heard that they're out of phone service." So I called the manager of that entity, and he was basically paralyzed he was like panicky. He didn't know what to do.
Right.
And so I kind of stuck my nose in and I said, all right, you take care of communicating with your customers as best you can about what's going on, and let me help you find the resources you need
to fix
it. And it took 2 phone calls to get another now CBAN member to respond, and, drive 2 hours and get to work on solving that problem. So that 24 hours of being out, if he just understood there was support, could have been solved a lot quicker. That person lost his job over it. But I have
hard mistake to learn.
Yeah, it is hard. I've continued to work with that entity consistently since then on various and sundry other solutions.
But Iowa, I love Iowa.
Yeah.
one time we were
We love you too.
we were watching the Field of Dreams, and my
Oh.
daughter was like, "I want to go
Still my heart.
run the bases on the Field of Dreams."
Yeah.
And we drove from Fort Worth, Texas, to Dyersville, Iowa, so she could run the bases. But it's always stuck with me. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And I really truly, in the 10 years I've been in the industry, if you build it, if you build the relationships, if you build honesty, if you build you nurture that relationship with your community, with your competitors.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
It's okay to break bread and figure out what are the pressure points that will help us all get by. There's enough people out there that need the internet that we're going to be okay.
I'm not sure I've ever heard a story where there wasn't a symbiosis there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Let's say that you are a local operator and on your edge of your network, you have one of those municipal players and you haven't formed that relationship yet. Maybe you've poked a little bit and you find that they don't have a history of doing this. There's nobody friendly there, but you know deep down that there is a path towards that symbiosis, that mutual benefit.
Yep.
Do you have any advice on how to initiate that, that initial conversation, how to break down that barrier? Are there strategies beyond just kind of coming in and say, because I feel like the symbiosis is real, but I feel like there's it could be rejected in terms of saying, well, here's all the great things I can do for you. And in exchange, here's the things. Like, it sounds like it's a negotiation.
Yeah,
if that's a conversation starter, that's probably not the best way to go.
Yeah. Don't be transactional at the beginning. That's for darn sure. I've talked to a number of providers about this over there. Be present. Be present. And what does that mean? That means if you're looking to partner with a community or looking even to expand into a community, whether the community partners with you or not, you need to be present. You need to have conversations with their leader. Go to their city council meetings, introduce themselves.
Right.
Ask the city manager to have coffee with you, and not in a transactional way,
right,
but in a relationship building way. Great example of this. There's a community, a CBAN member community that needed fiber optics network to provide for its citizens, right? Small community. They didn't have the wherewithal to do it. So they engaged with CBAN, said, help us find someone, a provider that could come to our community and provide service. And so we did some exploratory work. We engaged the community. We made sure the community really did need something better, and they did. And we got them to buy into the concept of a new provider. It wouldn't be the city. It would be another provider, but we would help the city identify a provider that had really good, strong local roots and would focus. During that process, we found out that there was an ISP that did some wireless service in the region, actually had an office in this community. And after we'd done the community broadband study, the owner of this entity said, well, I don't know why you did all that. We're here. We'd like to build in the town. And I just said to him, I said, have you ever talked to anyone on the city council? Have you ever talked to this public works director? Have you ever done this? Have you ever done that? It ended up, they told the city a bunch of fibs, and they were doing pole attachments without pole attachment agreements.
That's a great first impression.
Yeah. They are now kind of, I wouldn't say blacklisted, but gray listed. That community has identified a partner.
That they're operating there.
Yeah. And they've identified a partner to build a network and a partner that's going to be the ISP on that network. But this other entity could have been that partner had they been present and transparent.
Yeah.
Instead of not present and a little bit untruthful. So it just be there and make those conversations happen. People might have their guard up the first time, right? What do you want? What do you want from me? But once you establish a relationship, as you know, if you walk up to somebody here at Broadband Community Summit who've never talked before, and you say, hi, I'm Curtis, there's going to be a little guard there. But if you run into somebody you talked to last week or the week before, you had a phone call or you meet them exchange, sound like your old friends.
Yeah.
The guard is down now, and they'll have an honest conversation with you.
And you said something early on in that description about identifying what the problem is. How do you know that you've solved the problem unless you've identified the problem?
Absolutely.
You have to ask those questions that are sometimes difficult to get to the very essence of the situation.
Identify and define.
Yes.
Right, and that's a mutual definition. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I can actually do versus this is what you think you heard that I could do for you.
Yeah. It's laying it out. That's why sometimes I think it's important, and CBAN plays this role with our members, is to have a somewhat neutral third party that can be the eyes and ears to say, okay, what you're saying is this, what you're saying is that, what I'm hearing is this.
Right.
Is that what you meant? Someone who is,
it's almost
I don't have any stake in the game.
Yeah.
I don't live in the community, and I won't be there to profit from that collaboration.
Sure.
So that's one thing we've done multiple times is we're kind of the neutral third party at the table to say, help facilitate, not dictate, facilitate a collaboration, a partnership that then bears fruit.
That's fantastic.
And we just did this recently with a community where you were talking about before about somebody who's just like, I just want to solve a problem. There was a community where we had a gentleman that he saw that his community needed better broadband. And he said, what the heck, I'm going to do it. And he had an IT background, so he wasn't a dummy or anything. Went out, started building a fiber network in his town. Ran out of money.
Shocking.
The creditors are like, we need the money, pay us the money. And he's a CBAN member. He reached out to me, said, I don't know what to do. I got to figure out how to, the only way I can see is I got to sell this network. So he didn't know where to start. So I immediately thought of two entities that would be interested. And I called the first entity and I said, there's this guy wanting to sell a network. I think you should buy it. Well, let's talk. So we had an introduction and the transaction happened. And then the person who's buying it said, well, I don't have, they build networks. They don't operate them. I need an operator. Find me an operator. So I'm like, well, we got a CBAN member 5 miles, 10 miles down the road there. Let's bring you guys together. Close that circle now. And so the gentleman that took the risk because he was trying to solve a problem will see the problem solved. It didn't end up running him into the ground financially. And two great locally focused companies are going to collaborate to make that community have amazing broadband.
And bully for him, seriously, that he even stepped into the arena.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I spend a lot of time right now saying to myself, just because I can doesn't mean I should.
Absolutely.
There are people who can do it better than I can, and I need to be okay with handing the reins off. Or I can get a project to this point in time, and then I need to find the right partner to take it to the next level. And
the problem is you don't know what you don't know, right? And when this gentleman in question first reached out to me a couple of years before he started doing this project, and he said, I'm just trying to get better broadband in my town. So I made some introduction to him of CBAN members, and at that time, none of them were looking for growth. They were so focused on rural areas where there was state broadband funding.
Right.
So they didn't have the attention span to say, I'm going to go build in a community where there is no funding because it's considered served, even though it's poorly served. So, that's when he decided just to do it. If he had called me back up and said, nobody wants to talk to me, I'm just going to do it, I would have tried to not talk him out of it, but I would have said, okay, let's help you build a team of people that will help you do it well and successfully. But instead, I heard about it 6 months after he started. Oh, did you hear so-and-so's building a fiber network in thus and such town? And I'm like, oh boy. So then I immediately got, buckle up. Fortunately, he had a lot of people that were watching out for him, not just CBAN, but a couple CBAN members that he had collaborated with who actually engineered his system for him at very low cost. So we were all kind of looking out for him. So that's a problem that fortunately did not end in a disaster. It will end in a success for everybody.
That's fantastic.
You don't know what you don't know. And you got to admit that early on and say, I don't know what I don't know. I need to find people who know what I don't know. I need to bring them into the team. I need to collaborate with them.
Yep.
So I can not only learn what I don't know, but I've got expert advice to get it done. Sometimes those are paid consultants and advisors, and you can't throw a rock without hitting a consultant here. I'm one of them. Sometimes they're organizations like CBAN or Fiber Broadband Association that just have a knowledge base and an intellectual capacity to help you find the right people. Sometimes it's that member-to-member communication, which we do a lot of with CBAN, where it's like, you should talk to Cedar Falls Utilities. They got this done 10 years ago, and they know how to do it.
Right.
They've already had that experience.
They've already had that. You can learn from their mistakes because we all make them.
It's like seeing around a corner, right?
Yep.
People maybe talk about like seeing into the future, but I think it's like seeing around a corner. You
Yeah.
don't know what's there yet. How do you do that? Well, someone else has been around that corner. Maybe
Yeah,
it's not the
absolutely.
same corner, but they can probably give you a much better idea of what's probably around that corner as compared to your
Yeah.
own speculation.
Hey, John, I'm going to go around the corner. Oh, you don't want to go around that corner.
Exactly.
Let me tell you why. There's a guy with a machine gun there. Stay away.
And sometimes those conversations are held at the Circle Bar in the hotel.
They are, absolutely.
After hours when
Yeah.
you're breaking bread or raising a glass together.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
people have their guard down and they're willing to have conversations that they probably wouldn't have in their booth. They probably wouldn't have in a Zoom session that,
Yeah.
on camera, on
With an AI
with
assistant
an AI
recording.
assistant
Yeah.
taking notes. They're conversations about the experiences that you've
Yes.
had.
And that's the
And
relationship.
that's the relationship.
When you have a
exactly.
relationship, you're not afraid to share experiences. If you have a bad experience, let's take that for an example. I had a bad experience. I might be a little embarrassed about the experience. If I don't know you and you ask me, tell me about your bad experience you had, I'm going to be very reticent to share everything. But if we already have established a relationship because we broke bread or broke a keg together, or not drained, we just tapped it. Then you're much more likely to say, yeah, I know you now. I can tell you what really happened here. We really dropped the ball.
Right.
We got sold a bill of goods by this entity, this vendor, for example, and it turned out to be a complete nightmare, and we just made the wrong call.
This
and
could have been avoided if I only knew X.
we picked a fiber access platform, not knowing that 6 months later they would announce they're getting out of the fiber access platform business, and we would have to switch in midstream of our fiber build. I mean, it does happen, but you're not going to just go out and say, hey, everybody, I screwed up. Come and talk to me. That's not how the world works.
No.
Yeah, it's not how the world works, indeed. Gentlemen, I think it's time for us to move to our next segment.
Oh, goody.
Which is called Love It or Hate It.
Oh.
So I'm gonna throw out a couple of hot topics,
All right.
and I need your input on whether you love it or you hate it.
I have a little bit of hatred sometimes.
Let's see if we can bring it out.
Bring it out right now. Here we go.
The first one I'm going to throw out is there'd be more progress in spanning the rural divide if BEAD was never announced.
I don't love that statement, but I like parts of it. How let's say it's a minor like. BEAD has been a 2 to 4 year distraction. BEAD has delayed progress on projects that may have happened organically without it because people were waiting for BEAD. Everybody knew this thing was coming. Well, I was going to go build that area over there in rural blank county, in Alabama, but I'm not. I'd be silly to do that.
Hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait. There's also the fact that, and I talk to broadband providers all the time that said, I feel like I've just been screwed over here because I built out my entire telephone exchange with fiber on my own money 5 years ago. And if I hadn't been so forward thinking and progressive and wanting to take care of my customers, I'd be able to get that money back. And where's my money, So BEAD has been a distraction, and especially in the states that haven't done things outside of waiting for BEAD. We have had states that have very, very progressive rounds of state funding of various types, including ARPA, that have done an amazing job of reducing the amount of support that BEAD is going to have to do. But BEAD has distracted us from getting more work done. I think that now that BEAD is back to being a thing, I don't know. I haven't looked at my tweets yet today.
This is what we've been told.
It's Tuesday.
Yes, it's Tuesday. Stay tuned. The changes to BEAD were the bad part.
Yeah.
Not all of them. A lot of the changes were like, I'm nodding my head, I'm reading through the order, and yep. Oh,
Following.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I always thought that, the fiber preference was okay in that, yes, I believe fiber is the best solution and the most long-term solution, but there are always going to be cases where it's not the solution because of the cost, and I get that.
Yep.
But when we go from fiber first to fiber and probably not with this technology neutral, but then when we say the technology and we describe it in such a way that almost anything can get there cheaper than fiber,
Right.
we've done ourselves a disservice. So like it partially, hate it a lot.
Rick, how about you? What are your thoughts on whether we would be further down the road in the rural areas?
I'm with you, Curtis. It sounds strange to say I love it, but yes, I love that statement. I can't help but to have felt that way, especially the advent of all of these recent, remixes to the rules and directions. I think everyone is feeling more rudderless than ever.
Yeah.
I think the enthusiasm and belief that we're going to land the plane is lower than ever.
Indeed.
And at the end of the day, the digital divide has been a nonpartisan issue. Everyone wants to, make that no longer a thing anymore. I think we all want to wake up one day where it has been bridged. We've done it. The box is checked. I don't think we're ever going to see that in our lifetime definitively, but I think we all thought we'd be a lot further along the line. And yes, unfortunately for those providers that said, I don't want to have those regrets of spending my own money, so I'm going to be a part of this. They press snooze, they press snooze, they press snooze.
Yeah.
What does that look like in a day-to-day basis? Did you someone come in and take that neighborhood that you were waiting for because they had private funding and they just kept on with the show? There are stories like that everywhere, and I worry about the reality that we're in now, where, like you said, everyone is upside down, and we're all speculating, what does this mean? Is it truly going to be a case where now that there is this disparity in standards in terms of the speeds that you must deliver on your fiber versus your non-fiber delivery methods, that coupled with the costs, that you're going to see this thing totally flip on its head? What does that mean for the progress in this hypothetical world where everyone just kept marching one foot in front of the other? So I hate to say it.
Yeah.
None of us know where this is going to land, but in this moment in time, I have to decide that way.
Okay.
I think the digital divide, if we define the digital divide as we want people to have 100 by 20 and 100 milliseconds latency, if that's the divide as we're defining it, which is really what NTIA is saying, we got enough money now to do that.
That's easier today than it ever has been.
Because we've taken care of a lot of the areas. I mean, I have CBAN providers that built fiber to areas that were $25,000 per premise passed, and they did it with state funding. They still had $5,000 to $6,000 out of pocket, very marginal on the return, but they wanted to get it done. Well, if it solves the digital divide today, it's just creating a new digital divide. And I just wrote an article on,
because the goalpost will keep moving.
Yeah.
What the needs are, what's acceptable as high-speed internet will continue to change and evolve.
I would argue 20 megabits per second upload is not broadband.
When we started talking about this, it was. And that's exactly the point.
That's because that was 5 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would definitely claim that 100 milliseconds of latency is not broadband. I just wrote an article and posted it to our LinkedIn page about it's basically, I'm not a gamer, but there are plenty of gamers active out there, and they've become a force. And it's become one of the most popular forms of personal entertainment in the world.
Or considered a sport now.
It is considered a sport. In fact, I interviewed...
With their own dedicated arenas in Arlington, Texas.
Yep. I interviewed a esports commissioner of a league, and that does collegiate fighting games. That's their thing. Kids are going to college. They're getting...
Correct.
scholarships to go to college to be on the esports.
It's as real as anything.
It is.
Yep.
And you're basically saying to those kids, if you live in a rural area and you got to get satellite now because that's where the money went, you can't compete. And this sports league gentleman that I interviewed for the article was like, yeah, we're creating a new urban rural divide now with gaming, because if you're not on a wired network, you can't compete. Just period. End of discussion.
Sure.
And even if you're on a wired network that is over 30 millisecond latency, which is clear way under the NTIA requirement, you're dead before you can push the button. So it's creating new divides, and not one digital divide, but multiple digital divides. And we'll be back here in 5 years. I always like to think about this. In 5 years, what will we be saying? We will be saying we really messed that up. We had a once in a generation, well, really once in a lifetime opportunity, because Washington will never come up with money again to do this because of all the rancor that is developed around it.
Unfortunately.
And the fact that we're continuing to dig ourselves a debt hole that we can't climb out of as it is. I'm just praying that localities, counties, townships, cities, and states will step up. They're going to have to be the ones that solve that next divide.
Pick up the mantle and go.
You're absolutely right.
This ties really well into my next love it or hate it segment. So
sorry we went too long on love and hate.
Well done on that one. So love it or hate it.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time before LEO dominates the rural markets.
Love it, but hate it. The statement's true and accurate, and unfortunate. But
true, accurate, and unfortunate.
Yeah,
that's a quote.
That's a quote right
thank
there.
you. I try to throw one
Trademark.
out once in a while. Here's the problem I have. I think Starlink is brilliant technology, and I've crapped on the whole idea a lot on social media and whatnot. But it's not because the technology isn't sound. It's brilliant technology. It's world-class engineering. It really is good stuff. But there's a specific use case for it. And I go back to what Elon Musk said 5 or 6 years ago when they were still very early in Starlink deployment. He said Starlink has never been designed to solve all the broadband problems we have. It's designed to solve the worst, most rural locations that would never get anything, right?
Right.
And that capacity that it'll take to do that is still massive just to fill the worst gaps. And we see it now. They're starting to restrict new enrollments in certain areas. So it's a technology that is applicable and good in use cases where we can't do anything else. But you're right. It's going to become the default because there'll be locations that nobody else says they want to try to serve. They'll get those by default. The rules have practically been written to hand it to Starlink. We don't know what kind of application Starlink will have, right? But we have to assume they're going to look at the map and say, we'll do it all. We need $41.6 billion. Thank you very much. Yeah. Maybe the 41 or however many billions they get will allow him to fix his Starship so he can launch
without exploding.
Because there's no way he can get to his full constellation of Starlink to reach full capacity until he figures that out. And, I'm a space geek and I watch all these launches and I watch things blow up and I go, oh no, this is not good. So, I wish nothing but the best for them. And I'm sure the next generation of Starlink, I'm sure the next generation of Amazon's Kuiper or OneWeb or whatever LEO, it's going to be a race for more technology. But the only one we have right now is Starlink.
And I can go to Lowe's and get me one.
And you can go to Lowe's or Best Buy and get you one. There's even a CBAN member, Open Broadband in North Carolina. They take an all above approach to broadband. And they build fiber where it's feasible. They put in fixed wireless where it's not feasible to do fiber. And where fixed wireless doesn't work for terrain and trees and whatever, they'll go install people's fiber or their Starlink for them.
Because the last thing I want to do is install my own Starlink.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do.
They've had tremendous response to that. Because why? Because they do it well. They do all the testing. As opposed to, I bought this at Best Buy. I'm going to go throw it on the barn and hope it works.
Let me read this guide.
Yeah.
Let me call tech support.
Yeah. And they'll set it up and optimize their wireless router so they've got good whole home Wi-Fi and do all that. And, they're doing it as a service to people. They're like, listen, you need service and I really can't figure out a way to get there. Maybe in 5 years, I'll figure out a way to get there. How about you do this in the meantime, right? That's the right approach with Starlink. It is a short-term solution but it's not a long-term solution, in my opinion.
Rick, love it or hate it. It's only a matter of time before LEO dominates the rural markets.
I'm going to say I hate it. I'll have to qualify that, but I think you brought up some really good points.
How dare you disagree with me?
I know. This is going to be all over the news.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's like when Aaron and Trump started fighting.
That's right.
It'll be all the news for 2 days.
So,
and then you'll say you're sorry because you realize you were wrong.
Please don't start a war.
Or you'll start a war, one or the other.
Oh, man. You talked about that provider that they're kind of doing everything in these striations, and it's like panning for gold. The pan at the bottom, where all the silt falls through. where nothing else can be done. That's where LEO shines, and I agree with that. And I think that's where it should be leveraged.
Absolutely.
I have an example in rural Ontario, Canada. Really, really difficult, really, really sparse part. I actually, this got under my skin so much that I wrote a very rare soapbox LinkedIn post about it. But
That's all I've been doing lately because I got so many boxes of soap.
I try not to, but this one really got me, and it was because Starlink was chosen as the vendor of choice for this pilot program. There's just a little bit of money, $1 million, not a big deal. But when you've started to understand and follow the money, it was all spent on installations. And this is what I hate about the platform, because at the end of the day, yes, it works anywhere, but the average consumer doesn't want to bear that burden, doesn't know how to do it. And if we're truly, solving that problem, we need to do it from soup to nuts. We have to take care of the installation.
Yeah.
So all of this public money was used to install Starlink, and it sent all that money out of the province, all that money out of the country. There are providers that could have been doing this, that are doing this, that could have benefited from it. And the whole thing, frankly, rubbed me the wrong way. And I think it's because I do see it as that panning for gold analogy. I think it has a place in BEAD. I think it has a place in Ontario and in Canada. But I think that the risk that we have in saying, well, if it works anywhere, then it is the best everywhere, I think is an incredibly dangerous,
very short-sighted
stretch.
Can I piggyback on the analogy to that? So if I'm going to build a fiber network in a very rural area and I don't have any subsidization and I need to make this thing financially, fiscally responsible, I may have to charge $120 a month for that service, okay, to pay the debt it took for me to build that network. So it would be like saying, fiber operator, you build the fiber network and we'll give you money to pay for the router in the house. It's still $120 a month.
Yes.
That service has to be, because I have to pay back the capital it took to build it. Just because I bought them a router, or maybe the ONT and router, and maybe all those, maybe I spent $500 in the home that I don't have to come out of my pocket, but I've got these miles and miles and miles of passings where it's one passing per mile or half a passing per mile I have to pay for out of my pocket. It comes down to, with Starlink, to me, it's the monthly recurring charge is a huge barrier. It's just going to make the divide between people who have money and people who don't have money in broadband access. It's going to make it worse. And of course, the latency drives me up the wall, and I don't like the slow upload speeds.
That was actually where I landed with that whole thing, is the fact that nowhere in this program did it say that we were subsidizing the monthlies.
Yeah.
So the hypothesis, if you work backwards, is that the only reason these people didn't get Starlink in the first place, because it's available to everybody, or wasn't capacity issues there in the regions that it was at. It's not like we were adding satellites or anything. The only reason that these individuals didn't get it was because they didn't want to do the install, or they didn't want to pay for the hardware. They can afford that monthly. All of these homes can afford that monthly. Get out of here.
No, not true. Absolutely not. Well, can and should, maybe two different reasons, right? If I had to, I could come up with $120 a month for broadband if I had to. Instead, I'd rather pay $90 a month to my fiber provider, who's a CBAN member, and get 500 by 500. I would never go with $120 unless it was my absolutely last resort. And then I'd be eating beans and rice for a month to pay for the dang service.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, final segment.
Okay.
Let's end with what if. These are real scenarios that ISPs are struggling with.
At my age, I ask a lot of what ifs about my life.
What if regulators push for open access conditions for grant funding?
Wow. And what if I were 40 pounds lighter and had well-developed upper body muscles and less gray hair? Yeah, that would be a great world, wouldn't it? There's a booth with that here.
A time machine? Let's see.
One of the things I liked about BEAD as originally written, there were lots of things. If I'm a provider of broadband services, and I'm really good at what I do, I provide excellent service and support to my customers and fast response times to problems, and I do all those things. I would love to be on somebody's open access network because I can spend all of my time and attention and focus on serving the customer, not paying the debt for the network. I'm paying it a certain way because I'm, licensing or however you have the arrangement, paying the network provider, but I can focus on the customer.
On the end user.
Yes, the end user. And I can win in a marketplace where I just got to hustle and do my best. And it doesn't have to be about price. In fact, I would contend it's not about price. People want to be served well. They want to have that excellent experience. That's why some of the publicly owned networks that I are our members, they're not the cheapest guys in town. They're just dang good at it.
They're staying good.
And there's a loyalty. You earn that loyalty over a period of time. And when the door knocker and it's the private provider, the big multi-state company comes said, I got a deal for you, $30 for 100 meg broadband for the next 6 months. Oh yeah, what is it after that? $85, $90. Goodbye. Or even if it's for life. Well, I would rather work with these guys because when I call them, somebody answers the phone.
Somebody I know, like and trust, picks up the phone. They're out there at the baseball field.
Yeah.
They're doing the parades. We talked about this on a
I was
episode.
I was at a public meeting once in a community that was considering its own local broadband network, and big cable company served them with broadband, probably 100 by 20 at the time. And the government relations person for that cable company went to that public meeting and basically stood up and bragged, we've worked really hard at Company X. We now have response times under 72 hours. And the look on the city council member's face,
my pearls.
was just like,
I'm guessing this wasn't the mic drop moment he was banking.
Oh, in the bubble of his universe, they were patting themselves on the back. Yeah, we can get there within 4 days, 3 days, whatever. And in the real world, it just was like, and I remember one of the councilmen just laughed and said, is that the best you can do?
I think that's the response I'd expect.
And this guy left, and they basically said, oh, we got to keep doing this. We got to keep working on this. And they eventually built a network. So yeah, I think open access in a perfect world. President for a day? Can I be dictator for a day? A benevolent dictator for a day?
Open access for everyone.
Open access for everyone. I wouldn't want to mandate it on people who've already invested their own capital. But for new networks, yes, absolutely.
Rick, how about you?
I think that the devil's in the details. I think that if it's a funding initiative where it is truly just money doled and you don't have any repayment aspect to it, then yes, I think it is the noble thing to do. I think it will benefit everybody. It will create healthy competition and it will spread what we're trying to spread faster. I think if it's a case where it's more of a loan and you have to pay it back over time, I think that gets sticky because you're ultimately the one that's sticking your neck out. Yeah. And then immediately you're giving away your market share, and who knows what you're going to be left with by the time that the dust actually settles. So I think, yes, in case of our modern construct of BEAD, I could see it. I think your enthusiasm is warranted. I think when this question came up, I thought of some initiatives locally in Ontario, and there was a repayment aspect, and we were probably the golden choice for it, and we just kind of looked at it and said, let's keep doing what we're doing.
The local the local entity, and I mentioned Iowa, where we have a lot of broadband utilities. None of them are open access, and the reason always comes down to, I'm the person at risk here. I'm the entity at risk because I borrow the $12 million it takes to build this network. I need to have control over every element of the risk that I can, and therefore I'm going to be the operator. I'm going to be the ISP because the buck stops with me. And yeah, I can have covenants and rules and SLAs and up the yin yang on an open access provider, but in the end, they're the ones that have to perform on your network, and that's a risk. And it's also a risk that funders are only now beginning to understand is a potentially acceptable risk. Yeah. There's a company that does financing for some of the municipal broadband networks that I've been involved with over the years. And, I was always saying, well, why don't you pitch open access? No, they'll never go for it. Well, now they're starting to say, well, they're starting to go for it now. But there's generally a interest rate penalty on that. So you got to account for that in the business case. And it's all got to work on the financial end, or you shouldn't do it. If it doesn't work financially, no matter who the model is and who the provider is, you shouldn't do it. That's when you pivot to find a private entity that can do it for you.
Right.
So,
well, I'm looking to go find that money tree here on the trade show floor today.
yeah,
that I
yeah. Me too. Well,
shake a bit.
Shake viciously.
I'm shaking the money tree as a nonprofit that has had $400,000 worth of Digital Equity Act work pulled from it in a late night social media post, and we're trying to pivot to where are we replacing that funding in our operations so that we can keep doing what we do. So if there's a money tree there, I will shake it. And I will use it to benefit all our CBAN members. So I'm ready for the tree.
Curtis,
I'm ready for a seed. I'll grow the damn tree if I have to.
Indeed.
There you go.
Just give me a tree seed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure, you guys. Great.
Great.
Thanks for the time. You bet. My pleasure.